गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन, वेलकम टू Pub.administrare. टुडे इज 26th of November. आज हम कवर करेंगे विल्सन्स व्यूज ऑन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एज ए स्पेशलाइज्ड सब्जेक्ट ऑफ स्टडी, देन पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, their differences and similarities, then evolution of public administration as a discipline and present status of the discipline in our country. Now, as a specialized subject of study, जिस जैसे सोसाइटी की कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज़ बढ़ी, थर्ड वर्ल्ड नेशंस आए आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस एंड फंक्शंस ऑफ स्टेट ग्रो किए, वैसे हमें गवर्नमेंट की एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सेक्टर को रिफॉर्म करने की ज़रूरत पड़ी ऑन द डेमोक्रेटिक लाइन्स. नाउ अकॉर्डिंग टू विल्सन, the object of administrative study is to discover what government can properly and successfully does and how it can do these things with utmost efficiency and the least possible cost either of money or of energy. Now इसके लिए कुछ कमिटीज़ बनी हैं, उसको हम पढ़ेंगे. The Haldane Committee Report in Britain 1919, the President's Committee on Administrative Management 1937 in US, A.D. Gorwala Committee, Paul H. Appleby Committee report of the Committee on Civil Services, Fulton Committee report, UK 1968, reports of ARC in India 1967 to 72, Reinventing Government by David Osborne and Ted Gabler 1992, and the World Development Report, Building Institution for Markets by the World Bank 2002. Then Governance and Sustainable Development, UNDP 1997. Now its importance as an activity. As administrative state emerged and public administration became an essential part of society and also a dominant factor, its role enhanced in sectors like health, education, recreation, sanitation, social security, etc. It's a creative factor with its motto being human welfare. These functions are over and above the कन्वेंशनल रेगुलेटरी फंक्शन जो अभी तक स्टेट करता आ रहा था कि खाली सिक्योरिटी का ध्यान रखना, लॉ और ऑर्डर मेंटेन करना. तो नए वेलफेयर स्टेट के कॉन्सेप्ट के साथ अब स्टेट की जैसे जैसे कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज़ बढ़ी वैसे वैसे इनका रोल भी इन्हांस हुआ एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ भी ज़्यादा आई. एंड जैसे कि अब हेल्थ में भी स्टेट को पार्टिसिपेट करना है, एजुकेशन, रिक्रिएशन एंड वेरियस अदर थिंग्स. Now, अब हम पढ़ेंगे public and private administration. As a cooperative group activity, administration is truly universal and operates in all its types of public and private organization. What do we mean by public administration? ये हो गया हमारा government related to government administration, and private administration, this is related to administration of private business organizations. Now, the nature of administration depends upon the nature of settings and goals with which इट इज़ कंसर्न. ये इनका कहना है कि जो भी नेचर ऑफ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, जो भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का नेचर होता है वो डिपेंड करता है उसकी सराउंडिंग्स पे कि वो किस नेचर का है, पब्लिक है या प्राइवेट सेक्टर है, उसके क्या मोटिव्स हैं, क्या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं एंड एक्सेट्रा. नाउ द डिस्टिंक्शन बिटवीन पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, ये कुछ स्कॉलर्स हैं जिन्होंने अलग अलग बताया है इनको. वो हैं जॉन गॉस, लेडविग वॉन, पॉल एच एपलबाय, सर जोजियस स्टैम्प, हर्बर्ट ए साइमन, पीटर रकर, एक्सेट्रा. Now, according to Simon, public administration कैसा है? It is bureaucratic in nature and private administration is business-like. Public administration is political and private administration is non-political. And in public administration, we found red tapeism and private administration is free from it. Now, Felix A. Negro, he pointed out that government is also different from private organization as no private company can equal to it in size and diversity of activities. Now, as per Sir Josiah Stamp, 4 principles differentiate the public administration. First is principle of uniformity. इसमें क्या है कि कॉमन और जो यूनिफॉर्म लॉज होते हैं ज़्यादातर हम पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में देखते हैं कि उनको फॉलो करा जा रहा है. देन प्रिंसिपल ऑफ एक्सटर्नल फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल, जो पीपल के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं थ्रू लेजिस्लेटिव बॉडी, दे कंट्रोल द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. बेसिकली जो रेवेन्यूज़ हैं एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के वो लेजिस्लेचर के थ्रू ही कंट्रोल होते हैं, तो इसको हम एक्सटर्नल फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल करते हैं, जबकि ऐसा प्राइवेट सेक्टर में नहीं होता है. नाउ द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ मिनिस्ट्रियल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, the public administration is accountable to its political masters and through them to the people. Now, public principle of marginal returns और profit motive, ये तो पता ही है कि हम जो प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है वो प्रॉफिट मोटिव पे काम करता है, जबकि पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऐसा नहीं है, वहाँ पे हम पब्लिक सर्विसेज एंड सोशल वेलफेयर मोटिव पे काम करते हैं. Then according to Paul H. Appleby, they are different on three aspects. First is breadth of scope. The public administration is very much wider than private administration. Its impact and consideration. Then second is public accountability. Then the political character of public administration. Now administration, according to him, administration is politics since it must be responsive to the public interest. It is necessary to emphasize the fact that popular political processes, which are a sense of democracy, can only work through governmental organization, and that all governmental organizations are not merely administrative entities, they are and must be political organisms. The important distinguishing features are as follows. फर्स्ट इज पॉलिटिकल डायरेक्शन, जो कि अभी हमने डिस्कस किया कि पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इज पॉलिटिकल जबकि प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इज नॉन पॉलिटिकल एंड पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन टेक प्लेस इन अ पॉलिटिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट. देन इन एब्सेंस ऑफ प्रॉफिट मोटिव, the absence of profit motive from the public administration is another feature which distinguishes from the private administration. The primary purpose of governmental organization is to provide services to the people, जैसा कि मैंने कहा, and promote the social good, not the profit motive. Now prestige, public administrators who serve in the government enjoy high status and prestige in comparison to the private administrations, their counterparts in private administration. Then public gaze, all the actions of public administration are exposed to wide public gaze because the public closely watches them. This does not happen in private administration. Now service and cost, most government spends more money than their income or revenues, and इसी वजह से हमें गवर्नमेंट में डेफिसिट बजट देखना पड़ता है. लेकिन प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में ऐसा नहीं होता है कि एक्सपेंडिचर कभी भी इनकम से ज़्यादा हो जाए, ज़्यादा एक लिमिट से ज़्यादा हो जाए, विदाउट विच वो सर्वाइव नहीं कर सकते हैं इस कंडीशन में. देन द लीगल फ्रेमवर्क, public administration operates within a legal framework. It is rule oriented. The responsibilities of public administrators are fixed by a set constitutional practices, laws and regulations. Now government officials are obliged to act within their legal powers and not outside the law. They are not allowed to act outside the law, जबकि ऐसा प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में ज़्यादातर नहीं होता है. देन कंसिस्टेंसी ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट, एक गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल को हर किसी को एक कंसिस्टेंसी के साथ ट्रीट करना पड़ेगा. यहाँ पे डिस्क्रिमिनेशंस आर नॉट अलाउड, जबकि प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. एंड पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में इट इज़ अ लीगल ऑब्लिगेशन टू नॉट टू डिस्क्रिमिनेट एनी पर्सन अगेंस्ट in any case. Then large scale administration, and first is public accountability. Public accountability is the hallmark of public administration in a democracy. Now public administration is responsible to public, though not directly but indirectly through political executive, legislature, judiciary, etc. Then the large scale administration, public administration is obviously a large scale administration. It is said that almost anything under the sun is directly or indirectly under the domain of public administration. It is by all means larger than any big private concern in terms of size, complexities and diversity of activities. Now monopolistic and essential services. Now इसका क्या मतलब है कि जो पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की फील्ड है एंड जैसे कि जो एक्टिविटीज़ हैं, जैसे लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है मेंटेन करना, इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस हैं और सिक्योरिटी है, डिफेंस, ये सब, तो ये हमारी गवर्नमेंट ही उस पर लॉज बनाएगी, उस पर एक्ट करेगी, ऑफिशियल्स को असाइन करेगी. ये कोई प्राइवेट बॉडी नहीं कर सकती, कोई पब्लिक सच नहीं कर सकता, कोई इंडिविजुअल नहीं कर सकता. तो यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट की एक मोनोपोली आ जाती है एंड एक मोनोपोलिस्टिक नेचर दिखता है एसेंशियल सर्विसेज की टर्म्स में. नाउ ऑफिशियल्स इन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन रिमेन्स एनोनिमस. चाहे जितना सीनियर ऑफिसर हो वो अपनी आइडेंटिटी डिस्क्लोज नहीं करेंगे. एंड दिस इज सो बिकॉज वट एवर दे डू इन द नेम ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एंड नॉट इन देयर ओन नेम. नाउ फाइनेंशियल मेटिकुलसनेस. Public administration has to be very careful in financial matters because it is working as custodians of people's money. Then the lower level of efficiency. पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में आपको एफिशिएंसी थोड़ी सी कम मिलेगी क्योंकि ड्यू टू वेरीड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ और इफ़ेक्टिव कंट्रोल नहीं होता है एंड अकाउंटेबिलिटी थोड़ी कम होती है, या इन्वॉल्वमेंट ऑफ अ लार्ज नंबर ऑफ लेवल्स एंड जॉब सिक्योरिटीज़ ऑफ एम्प्लॉय। एफिशिएंसी यहाँ पे ज़्यादा नहीं होती है एज़ कम्पेयर टू प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, क्योंकि वहाँ पे मेजर मोटिव क्या है, प्रॉफिट अर्निंग एंड एक्सेसिव कंट्रोल होता है पर्सनल पे, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होती है, तो दैट्स वाई वहाँ की जो एफिशिएंसी है वो पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से ज़्यादा होती है। नाउ सिमिलैरिटीज़ बिटवीन पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इस पे इसके जो वो हैं स्कॉलर्स वो हैं हेनरी फेयोल, एम.पी. फॉलन एंड एल. इरविक. Now Fayol, while addressing Second International Congress of Administrative Science, said, "The meaning which I have given to the word administration and which has been generally adopted broadens considerably the field of administrative sciences. It embraces not only the public service but also enterprises of every size and description of every form and every purpose." इन्होंने बोला कि जो इन्होंने प्रिंसिपल्स दिए हैं प्लानिंग, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, कमांड, कंट्रोल एंड कोऑर्डिनेशन, ये पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में भी सेम है एंड प्राइवेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में भी सेम है. नाउ द सिमिलैरिटीज़ कि कॉमन स्किल्स, हमें कॉमन स्किल्स ऑलमोस्ट चाहिए होती हैं लाइक मैनेजमेंट एंड लीडरशिप एक्सेट्रा. देन टेक्निक्स एंड प्रोसीजर्स भी सेम फॉलो होते हैं एंड ट्रेनिंग ऑफ एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव स्टाफ कॉलेज है हैदराबाद में एंड इट इज एस्टैब्लिश फॉर ट्रेनिंग ऑफ बोथ पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट पर्सनल. तो इट इज़ ऑल्सो सिमिलैरिटी. एंड सेकेंड इज प्रॉफिट मोटिव. आजकल पब्लिक सेक्टर इंटरप्राइजेज भी उस तरफ थोड़ी सी इंक्लाइंड हो रही हैं, नाउ टाइम्स एक लॉडेबल ऑब्जेक्टिव हो गया है उनके लिए. नाउ प्राइवेट कंसर्न आर ऑल्सो सब्जेक्ट टू मैनी लीगल कंस्ट्रेंट्स like Companies Act, etc. Then hierarchy, same organization structure, superior subordinate relationships, and also the public relation aspect that they have to deal with the public now. So these are the similarities between public and private administration. So they are not absolute distinctions, more and more alike in they are more and more alike in many respects. Now Waldo ने क्या कहा, public administration is distinct because it reflects the peculiar characteristic of government activity and the public settings in which it functions. Now with wide acceptance of LPG, both private and public administration have to compete in same area to provide services to people. Now according to Waldo, public and private administration are two species of the same genus, but they have special values and techniques of their own which they give to each its distinctive character. Now our next topic is evolution of the discipline, its status, growth and development. It possesses two implications. As an activity, public administration बहुत in fact जब से civilization start हुई है administrative activities start हो चुकी थी, and but as a field of study ये कब born हुआ 1887 में, जब वुड्रो विल्सन ने एक essay लिखा था द स्टडी ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, जो कि पॉलिटिकल साइंस क्वार्टरली में पब्लिश हुआ था. सो इट मे बी दस द न्यूएस्ट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस. Then some ancient works on contemporary administrative systems were first is Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is the oldest text on public administration. Then Aristotle Politics in ancient West, Machiavelli's The Prince in medieval West, maxims and teachings of Confucius. Then obviously Ramayana and Mahabharata are also two of the important texts regarding this context. The systematic study of public administration began in 18th century. But official academic status to the discipline वो वर्ल्ड वॉर के पहले तक नहीं आया था. ठीक. The modern public administration was first taught as a part of training course of public officials on probation in Prussia, जो कि अभी जर्मनी एंड ऑस्ट्रिया का कुछ पार्ट इन पोलैंड को कंसिस्ट करता है. Here the cameralists showed significant interest in this study. George Zink was the most distinguished scholar among cameralists. Now cameralism was a German science of public administration in the 18th and early 19th century that aimed at strong management of a centralized economy for the benefit mainly of the state. Now, towards the end of 18th century, there were movements of government reforms gained momentum in US. Now, according to Ramki Basu, the following factors have contributed to this in 20th century. The scientific management movement advocated by F.W. Taylor, the 19th century's industrialization which gave rise to large-scale organization, emergence of concept of welfare state replacing the police state, the movement for governmental reforms due to the negative consequences of spoils system. Now, the meaning and scope of public administration was defined for the first time in Hamilton's The Federalist. Charles Jean Boyne's Principles de Administration Publique in French, 1812, is considered as the first separate treatise on the subject of public administration. Now, we can broadly divide the history of public administration into following 6 periods. Stage 1 is politics administrative dichotomy from 1887 to 1926. Then stage 2, principle of administrations 1927 to 1937. Then era of challenges 1938 to 1947. Then crisis of identity from 1948 to 1970. Then public policy perspective 1971 to 1991. Then rowing to steering perspective from 1991 and still continuing. These rowing and steering terms were given by Osborne and Gabler. Now, Nicholas Henry described following 5 paradigms in the intellectual development of public administration. Paradigm 1, the politics administrative dichotomy from 1900 to 1926. Then paradigm 2, the principle of administration from 1927 to 1937. Then paradigm 3, public administration as a political science 1950 to 1970. Paradigm 4, public administration as administrative science of management 1956 to 1970. Paradigm 5, public administration as public administration from 1970 and is still continuing. Now, Robert T. Golombisky noted 4 phases in his development. Phase 1, analytic politics or administration. Phase 2, concrete politics or administration. Phase 3, a science of management. And phase 4, public policy approach. Now, according to him, each phase may be distinguished and understood in terms of its locus. Locus mean where the public administration is acting, and focus mean what, that what is the focus of the public administration in that sector. Now, the first stage is politics administrative dichotomy from 1887 to 1926. ये स्टेज कब स्टार्ट हुई? जब वुड्रो विल्सन का ऐसे आया द स्टडी ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, जिसने एक सिस्टमैटिक स्टडी ऑफ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को स्टार्ट किया, एंड इसीलिए विल्सन को हम फादर ऑफ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कहते हैं. देन विल्सन ने सेपरेट किया पॉलिटिक्स एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को. उनके वर्ड्स में दैट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लाइज आउटसाइड द प्रॉपर स्फेयर ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स. उन्होंने कहा कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पॉलिटिक्स के एक आउटर स्फेयर पे लाई करता है. इट इज़ नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स, एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव क्वेश्चंस आर नॉट पॉलिटिकल क्वेश्चंस. ऑल्दो पॉलिटिक्स सेट्स द टास्क फॉर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इट शुड नॉट बी सफर टू मैनिपुलेट इट्स ऑफिसर्स. द फील्ड ऑफ टू अवॉइड द इंटरफेरेंस ऑफ पॉलिटिकल कैरेक्टर, उन्होंने ऐसा बोला, द फील्ड ऑफ administration is a field of business and it is removed from the study of the hurry and strife of politics. It is a part of political life only as a method of counting houses are the part of life of society. Only as a machinery is a part of manufactured product. Administration is a science. Thus he said that the science of administration is the latest fruit of that study of the science of politics which was begun some 2200 years ago. It is a birth of our own country, almost of our own generation. We are having now what we never had before, a science of administration. He called for a separate study of public administration, and his basic argument was that it is getting to be harder to run a constitution than it is to frame one. Hence, according to him, there should be a science of administration which shall seek to straighten the parts of government, to make its business more business-like, to strengthen and purify its organization, to crown its duties and dutifulness. Now, Wilsonian line of thought, इसको ही फ्रैंक जे गुडनाउ ने आगे बढ़ाया एंड अपनी बुक में पॉलिटिक्स एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, जो कि 1900 में पब्लिश हुई. एंड टू कोट हिम, politics has to do with policies or expressions of the state will, whereas administration has to do with the execution of these policies. और उन्हें हमने फादर ऑफ अमेरिकन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कहा। नाउ इन 20th सेंचुरी यूएसए की यूनिवर्सिटीज़ ने पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पब्लिक सर्विस मूवमेंट में अपना इंटरेस्ट दिखाना शुरू किया, इसलिए पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन रिसीव द फर्स्ट सीरियस and hence public administration received the first serious attention of scholars. Now, American Political Science Association in its 1914 report stated that one of the concerns of political science was to train specialists for governmental positions. Then 1926 में एडी वाइट की Introduction to the Study of Public Administration book आई, and this was the first textbook on public administration. From its publication onwards, this subject picked up academic legitimacy. Now, this book faithfully reflects the dominant theme of the contemporary period, which was politics administrative dichotomy. Its premises are that politics and administration are to be kept separate, and efficiency and economy are the watchwords of public administration. Now, the dominant features of first period was a passionate belief in politics administrative dichotomy. इतना belief था scholars को they forgot about that this practice is invalid if practically. Then stage 2, the principle of administration. ये 1927 से 1937 तक चली। इसका सेंट्रल थीम क्या था? प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन। सेंट्रल बिलीफ वॉज कि कुछ प्रिंसिपल्स हैं पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में जो कि यूनिवर्सल हैं, एंड स्कॉलर्स का ये टास्क है कि उन्हें डिस्कवर करें एंड प्रमोट करें, उनके एप्लीकेशन को प्रमोट करें। Hence, public administration is a science, because science is also having some universal principles. Now, begin with W.F. Willoughby's Principles of Public Administration in 1927. इस वर्क के बाद ये स्टेज शुरू होती है। He asserted that in administration there are certain fundamental principles of general application analogous to those characterizing any science. Now, other important publication of this stage were Henry Fayol's General and Industrial Management, 1916, M.P. Follett's Creative Experience, 1924, Mooney and Riley's Onward Industries, 1931, Gulick and Urwick's Papers on the Science of Administration, 1937. With this publication, this stage reached its zenith. Now, the Mooney and Riley's Principles of Organization, 1939. Now, Gulick and Urwick stated that it is the general thesis of this paper that there are principles which can be arrived at inductively from the study of human organization, which should govern arrangements for human association of any kind. These principles can be studied as a technical question irrespective of the purpose of the enterprise, the personnel comprising it, और any constitutional, political और social theory underlying its creations. इन्होंने कहा कि जो principles हैं वो किसी भी administrative entity पे लागू होंगे irrespective वो किस पर्पस से बनी है, या वहाँ का पर्सनल कैसा है, या कोई भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल या पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी जिसके अंडर वो क्रिएट हुई है, इट डजंट मैटर. एंड गुलिक ने पॉट्सकॉर प्रिंसिपल्स दिए जो कि प्लानिंग, ऑर्गेनाइजिंग, स्टाफिंग, डायरेक्टिंग, कोऑर्डिनेटिंग, रिपोर्टिंग एंड बजटिंग. नाउ बाय मोहित भट्टाचार्य, the public aspect of public administration was virtually dropped at this stage, and the focus was almost wholly on efficiency. This stage can be called the stage of orthodoxy, as efforts were underway to delineate firmly the boundaries of a new discipline of management. Now, public administration merged into the new science. Public administration reached its reputational zenith during this stage. These were the golden years in the history of public administration. It gained high degree of respectability both in government and business sectors. Now, third stage is era of challenge, 1938 to 1947. Its main theme was advocacy of human relations, behavioral approach to study of public administration. जब हमने principles को बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान दे दिया, बहुत formal nature एक create हो गया था कि organization structure पे बात हो रही है, तो अब बात हुई कि अब human relations and behavior पे बात हो, that human is also an important and in fact the most important aspect of public administration. Now, both the defining pillars of public administration were challenged. इस era में दोनों जो defining pillars थे, first is public administration dichotomy and second is principle of administration, दोनों को challenge किया. First, it was rejected, political or administrative dichotomy, and it was argued that administration can't be separated from politics. Then principle of administration, they इनको किस basis पे किया कि they lack the scientific validity and the universal relevancy. They are not universal. They are dubbed as proverbs and naturalistic fallacies. It was also criticized due to the mechanistic approach, and that is it emphasis on formal structure of organization and neglect of social and psychological aspects. That is the human aspect इन्होंने neglect कर दिया था. इसके बाद इसी पीरियड में हॉथॉर्न स्टडीज़ हुई 1924 से 1932 बाय एल्टन मेयो, जिन्होंने डेमोन्स्ट्रेट किया कि इनफॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का क्या रोल होता है. इनफॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मीन्स कि जो हम पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन मतलब जब हम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाते हैं और हमारे कुछ एक इनफॉर्मल ग्रुप्स जो फॉर्म होते हैं तो उनका क्या इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है हमारी प्रोडक्टिविटी पे. तो इन्होंने बताया कि उनका जो इम्पैक्ट है ऑन ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल एफिशिएंसी, और इससे हमारी ह्यूमन रिलेशन थ्योरी ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इमर्ज हुई. Important publication of this stage which challenged the classical public administration were Chester I. Bernard's The Functions of Executive 1938, F.M. Marx Elements of Public Administration 1946, Herbert A. Simon, he was the most important thinker of this era, The Proverbs of Administration 1946, Administrative Behavior 1947. Now, on administrative behavior, Herbert Simon was awarded Nobel Prize in the year 1978. इन्होंने एक rationalistic theory develop की administration की bounded rationality के साथ, and he was the most important critic of this principle of administration. And इन्होंने principles को as a proverbs denote किया. Now, he advocated the behavioral approach to public administration to make it more scientific discipline. He focused upon decision making as the alternative to the principal approach. To quote Simon, if any theory is involved, it is the decision making as the heart of administration, and that the vocabulary of administrative theory must be derived from the logic and psychology of human choice. Now, Simon rejected the idea of politics administrative dichotomy and recommended an empirical approach to study of public administration. As Mohit Bhattacharya says, Simon brought in the perspective of logical positivism. This is important. Logical positivism given by Simon in the study of policy making and the relation of means and ends, reflecting the perspective and methodology of behavioralism in psychology and social psychology. Now, administrative behavior pleaded for the raising of scientific vigor in public administration. इसके बाद इसी एरा में रॉबर्ट डाल ने आर्ग्यू किया दैट द इवोल्यूशन ऑफ साइंस ऑफ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वाज हिंडर्ड बाय थ्री प्रॉब्लम्स. The place of normative value was made unclear, the nature of man in the area of public administration should be better understood, and the unscientific nature of principle of administration drawn from limited national and historical settings. He suggested cross-cultural and comparative studies. Now, he emphasized the environmental effects on administrative behavior. He believed that public administration cannot escape the effects of national psychology and social, political and cultural environment in which it develops. उन्होंने बोला कि पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एस्केप नहीं कर सकता उन इफ़ेक्ट्स को जो उसके नेशनल साइकोलॉजी या सोशल पॉलिटिकल कल्चरल इन्वायरमेंट से उसके ऊपर आ रहा है, एंड हर जगह का इन्वायरमेंट अलग होता है. Hence, he suggested the cross-cultural studies. In his words, the comparative aspects of public administration have largely been ignored, and as long as the study of public administration is not comparative, claims for a science of public administration sounds rather hollow. Conceivably, there might be a science of American public administration as a science of British public administration as a science of French public administration, but can there be a science of public administration in the sense of a body of generalized principles independent of their peculiar national settings? The study of public administration inevitably must become a much more broadly based discipline, resting not on a narrowly defined knowledge of techniques and processes, but rather extending to the varying historical, sociological, economic, and other conditioning factors. Now, the stage 4, crisis of identity from 1948 to 1970. With rejection of politico-administrative dichotomy and principle of administration, अब public administration एक आइडेंटिटी क्राइसिस आया. तो कुछ स्कॉलर्स वापस पॉलिटिकल साइंस में चले गए एंड कुछ मैनेजमेंट साइंस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव साइंस में चले गए जो कि मैनेजमेंट है. Now, some of the scholars return to political science, the mother science, However, they were not encouraged by political scientists. Then John Gause, in his article entitled Trends in the Theory of Public Administration, developed the thesis that a theory of public administration means, in our time, a theory of politics also. Further, Roscoe Martin, in his 1952 article, called for continued dominion of political science over public administration. Some other moves towards the administrative science. They argued that administration is administration irrespective of its settings. They founded the Journal of Administrative Science Quarterly in 1956. The major works influenced by this perspective are Organizations by March and Simon in 1958, Behavioral Theory of the Firm 1963 by Syatt and March, Handbook of Organization 1965 by March, Organization in Action 1967 by J.D. Thomson. However, in both cases, public administration with lost its separate identity. इस वजह से इसको हम स्टेज ऑफ क्राइसिस ऑफ आइडेंटिटी कहते हैं, क्योंकि पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इस स्टेज में अपनी आइडेंटिटी को लॉस किया था. Now, various developments took place during this phase, with the rise of new human relations approach advocated by Chris Agres, Douglas McGregor, Rensis Likert, Warren Bennis and others, and growth of CPA, that is comparative public administration, advocacy of ecological approach to the study of public administration by Fredericks, conceptualization of development administration by Edward Widner, Fredericks and others, then administrative development, then emergence of NPA, that is New Public Administration, PCA by Vincent Ostrom, etc. Then stage 5, public policy perspective from 1971 to 1991 and still continuing. I mixed up these things. Now, main theme of this 1971 to 1991 and then still continuous public policy analysis. Now, public administration registered its progress in this period. Public administration attracted within its folds scholars from various disciplines and thus became truly interdisciplinary in nature. This is the most interdisciplinary subject of all social sciences. Public policy approach got acceptance in administrative analysis. Now, Dwight Waldo, the separation between politics and administration को इन्होंने आउटवॉन क्रेडो कहा, एंड दिस क्योंकि इसे रिजेक्ट कर दिया गया था. नाउ अकॉर्डिंग टू रॉबर्ट टी गोलम्बिस्की, दिस स्टेज इज बिल्ड अपॉन टू बेसिक थीम्स. फर्स्ट इज द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एट ऑल और मेनी लेवल्स, then the programmatic character of all administration. Now we come on to the present status of discipline. Public administration today has variations, eclecticism, and an applied nature. It shows that today public administration is heterodox. It has become confluence of part of various fields comes to bear and on understanding and enhancing our knowledge of matters relating to its profession. Now, some other facts. In the 1930s, Lucknow University became the first one in India to have included a full compulsory paper on public administration and the MA Political Science syllabus. Then in 1937, Madras University became first one in India to have started a diploma course in public administration. Then in 1949 and 1950, Nagpur University became the first one in India to have established a separate full-fledged department of public administration and local self-government. With this, public administration was invested in India for the first time with full academic legitimacy. This department was headed by late Dr. M.P. Sharma, who had the distinction of being the first professor of public administration in India. Now, in 1954, Indian Institute of Public Administration was established in New Delhi on the recommendation of Paul H. Appleby's report, 1953. It is the nucleus of administrative research in India, and it publishes Indian Journal of Public Administration, that is IJPA. In 1987, public administration was introduced as fully independent subject in civil services by UPSC, and today nearly 50 universities, hundreds of colleges and a number of training institutes are engaged in teaching and research in public administration. Thank you so much. एंड जैसे कि मैंने कहा था कि यूनिट 1 इस वीक कंप्लीट हो जाएगी, लेकिन वो अभी तक हुई नहीं है. आई एम रियली सॉरी फॉर दैट, बट आई अश्योर यू कि नेक्स्ट वीक तक यूनिट 1 एंड यूनिट 2 की कंप्लीट वीडियोस आपको मिल जाएंगे. थैंक यू सो मच.